Oh yeah.
Welcome to La Liga draft wrap up. We're doing round six today. I'm your host, as always, the commish, and we've got a special guest with us today. We've got Kenneth Steinhauser, aka Kenny Deals, with us coming in from New York City. Kenneth, fantastic to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Wearing my Monday purple, as all Minnesotans do, my Randy Moss jersey. It confused people at work, first couple times, but then they sort of got it. No, but hanging out, relaxing on this Memorial Day,
Yeah.
recuperating, getting ready for a short week, excited to kick off summer. So good to be here.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day to you as well. You got the full day off?
That's right. I mean, if we're being honest, I'm going to answer emails the next 4 or 5 hours, but it's only four
Yeah.
or 5 hours.
Well, 4 or 5 hours, you spend more time looking at the draft, doing analysis than that on average day. You're basically working two full-time jobs at this point during the draft, would you say?
It when you invited me to a dynasty league, I was like, man, I don't even like fantasy football, and I end up in so many of these leagues. And I was like, am I gonna, have the time and the energy to devote to this? And then I was like, yeah, fucking course, I'm good. I gotta dig in, I gotta do it.
If
So
if
excited to be
Kenneth
in
is
another one.
in, if you're in, you're all in. You're all in. How many Excel spreadsheets do you have in
You
regards to
know,
this draft right now?
not a ton. I have one spreadsheet with some thoughts in it. I'm a big reader. I got my websites that I'm across, so I'm
Okay.
compiling it all up here. I don't have any like independent math, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you like, I know every running back's like yards after first contact or whatever, but I'm not quite on that level.
Yeah, okay. And then vibes, yeah, is it vibes too?
It's a little bit vibes. I do look at, I must admit, the keep trade cut like trade analysis if anyone's not familiar. And so
Yeah.
like I do a little bit of like market checking, but there's definitely just some vibes too. Like, whatever. We've all been playing fantasy football since we were 15, so you gotta just follow your heart sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm getting excited to talk to you about, dig into your thoughts. But before we get into too much fantasy football, we've got a couple things to catch up on. Um, I need to hear a little bit about the wedding. I mean, let's pull up a pic. Unfortunately I got called into work. The assistant GM needed me that week, so I wasn't able to come to the wedding. I'm just absolutely devastated, but I heard it was a fantastic time. Let's pull up a pic here. Um, there we go, Ken. Give us a breakdown. Give us a
Yes.
breakdown of the weekend. Um, no cold feet. Looks like everything went well.
Yeah, man. So first off, as of Wednesday of that week, we were in deep trouble. It was forecast was 60s thunderstorm. It was supposed
Oh,
to rain all Saturday. Clearly, like we wanted the wedding to be outside. Almost called an audible. We thought about tent or indoors. I had the strangest idea. So a coworker suggested there's a Southern tradition where if you bury a bottle of bourbon at the wedding venue beforehand, that guarantees you good weather. There's no grass anywhere near that wedding venue. So
okay.
Tuesday night before the wedding,
Tough luck.
me and two buddies buried a bottle of bourbon in Central Park.
Wow.
Forecast improved from then on. So we got 75, we got sunny. It was we couldn't ask for anything more. Day went great. Um, Friends and family all made it. Pictures were good. Wedding was awesome. Drinks, dancing, all incredible. There were a couple league mates there. Shout out. We tried to get a couple other picks, but we were technically limited. But teams Desmond, Gage, Lee. Trying to think if I'm forgetting anybody, but no, it was a full roster. Was an
That's
incredible
good.
day. We're really grateful to everyone.
Yeah. Sounds like it looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you cannot beat a view like that. And you two look beautiful together too. So congratulations again. Quick deep dive into that bourbon. Does that have to stay there? Is that you don't get to take that dig that up later, right? That's Central Parks now, right?
Look, it's done its job, but I think it's earned a good long life in the ground. Yeah, I mean, unless I'm ever, destitute and alcoholic, and then, maybe I'll know where to dig up a quick fix. I think it stays there. I think it lives out the rest of its days under
Yeah.
the ground.
Someone in 40 years might just get the biggest surprise of their life when they're digging in Central Park. Well, hopefully for non for all for legal reasons. I'm not sure what the what the main people, they're just digging for booze probably.
They know the lore. They know there's a bottle of bourbon out there somewhere. Like, some eager treasure hunter is going to go find it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, one of the most special days of your life, certainly. Probably the most special day so far, and then I'm sure you'll have some future ones too to hang your hat on. Maybe a fantasy football dynasty championship day. You know.
But look, if I'm thinking of photos that'll be in my office, definitely one wedding. But if I win La Liga, that will be right next to it with
Yeah, yeah.
the
We're not
trophy.
going to compare. We're not going to compare one to the other, but we'll just say that they're both important.
They're both pretty important. They would be about equal on the shelf.
All right. One more thing I got to shout out. I know you've been busy with the draft, but I know you're not just a football connoisseur. You're watching the T-Wolves, right? You're watching your T-Pups putting up 143 in game 3. Any thoughts on that comeback what do you think?
Look, we're as everyone knows, we're pretty cursed in Minnesota. Been 25 years since a Big Four championship. I think Ann Edwards is the man to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we get past the Thunder this year. It'll be a long series, but potential is clear. He's a killer. Only 23, 24,
Yeah.
only 5 kids so far. Like all the analytics are looking bright.
Right.
He's the star we need, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know what they say in the NBA? They say that the series hasn't started until a home game is lost. T-Wolves down 2-1 in the series, but they've got home court coming up in game 4. And you saw it with the Bucks against the Suns in the championship a couple of years ago. Bucks go down 2-0. All the reports said Ant Edwards was just as confident as ever when they were down 2-0 coming back to Minneapolis, and he put on a show in game 3.
I think Ant Edwards has another kid this series just for good measure,
Oh
just to
man,
give
yeah,
himself, the
yeah,
financial,
yeah.
keep the pressure on.
I don't think it's technically a performing enhancing drug if it's naturally made testosterone. So
Look, no rules against that.
we'll have to talk to our sponsors at Hims about that. But as far as I know, in the NBA, that's legal. Um, let's get back into fantasy football. Before I ask you the first question, I got to do a retraction. We all, as journalists, we all make mistakes. Got to just go back to talking with Aaron Moyer. I had mentioned the contract of T. Higgins. Um, Looking back on that, I had forgotten that he had actually signed that contract back in March. I had a couple people let me know about that. So yeah, 4 years, 30 million guaranteed with the Bengals. He is going to be a Bengal for a few years at least. So just wanted to throw that out there for folks. But let's get into it. We're going to start with one of our first sponsored question today. Our first sponsored question is brought to us by Neutrogena, free and clear, acne scrub. Our clear pick of the round 6. It's got to be that tier 2 selection of QBs, Justin Herbert. When some of us have acne during our teenage years. Some of us have a little bit of acne going into our 20s. For me, more into our 30s. We're doing Neutrogena free and clear. Get that face nice and pretty. Justin Herbert looking good this year. He's growing up. He's hitting his mid 20s. Well, not just mid 20s. He's 27. He might have looked 18 when he came into the league. He's 27 now, and we've got Neutrogena's free and clear pick of the round, Justin Herbert. Ken, what do you think about Justin Herbert? He's, most people are looking at him as kind of that, that top of tier two quarterbacks, and he gets selected in the sixth round.
Yeah, so um, I love the talent. I think when you look across the NFL, like it's clear Justin Herbert's a guy who can get it done. He's in a spot where he's clearly going to have that job a long time. And so I think if you're looking for, solid dynasty performance, I slot him right there and kind of that second tier quarterbacks is like, look, this is a guy who's going to produce as a, sort of top quartile starting quarterback in the NFL for the next decade. So I see why Will took him. I guess the question for me around Herbert is how are they going to score the ball? I think he's got a great number one wide receiver in Ladd McConkey, but Harbaugh, he's a pound the rock type guy.
Yeah.
Spent that draft capital on Marion Hampton. Obviously, they've got Najee in the backfield.
Yeah.
I could see this team running the ball 400, 500 times. I think in the red zone, that's how Harbaugh prefers to score points. And so I think of Justin Herbert as kind of a, high floor, low ceiling type guy. Like I think
Mhm.
he'll produce, but I don't see the upside around, some of these guys who could maybe pass a little bit more. The Caleb Williams of the world and guys who might throw it a bit more. But I love the pick. I see
Yeah.
why Will did it.
Yeah. So you're thinking a little bit more of a safe pick in for a
Exactly.
quarterback.
Exactly. Or that's what he is to me. He's high floor, low ceiling.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna look, do a deep dive in the 2024 stats. He's got two rushing touchdowns. Top rushing total in one of the games was 65 against Cincinnati, but he's usually more in the, he can have zero rushing yards, teens, 20s. So he's not much of a dual threat on that Chargers offense, but we know he can huck the ball. I mean, he's got probably strongest, top three strongest arm in the league. So he's dynamite in the pocket. It's just about kind of what kind of offense they play, as you had mentioned.
Totally. And I could be wrong. Look, maybe he's a pocket passer this year and he puts up 5,000. He has the potential. Definitely. It's just how they're going to run the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, last four games of 2024, two touchdowns throwing, two touchdowns throwing. Week 18, 346 yards through the air, two touchdowns, no interceptions. He finished the year strong last year. Let's hope for Will's sake that he follows that through in 2025.
Look, that could be the kind of season we get, and then that'll be a great pick from Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah. So Neutrogena clean and clear up that acne. Justin Herbert looking good in 2024. Hopefully he has a good 2025 year as well. So Will gets his guy. We want to talk a little bit more about your like personal strategy, your in this year's draft. I'd like to ask you personally, we know that you were pretty aggressive in round two. Dog season. Dog season. Hey Tal, thanks. Um, we
Assistant Commissioner Tal.
what was that?
I said assistant Commissioner
Oh,
Tal.
Secretary Taliesin. Talia. Um, so we know you were aggressive in the second round, moving up for Ashton Gentry. I had a quick question about your general draft strategy. What are the pros and cons of being aggressive moving up in the draft? And then also maybe subverting some of the ADP projections of saying like you have your guy, the ADP is a tool, but sometimes you just got to be aggressive and find the guys that you want.
Yeah. So I think that's well said, Aaron. So first off, I think when I was looking at the league, it's not a super deep roster, right? I think we're starting seven skill positions. Seven, is that right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And I suspect the teams that will win year after year don't necessarily need to be incredibly deep, right? I think you need studs in those seven starting spots, and then
Yep.
like someone always runs good on injury luck, and so I really was trying to prioritize kind of the home run hitters as I think about building my team, and so we talked about it a little bit before the draft. I'm pretty high on Genty. I think like he's got all the tools. He landed in a spot where he could see a lot of production. With the
Yeah.
Raiders, they have basically no other players I want to name or deal with, and so
Yeah.
like I think
Yep.
I think he could see a lot of opportunity, and so when he slid past kind of end of the first round, coming around the turn, it looked attractive to me, and like in a league where I think depth is going to matter a little bit less. It was fine to give up that draft capital to like go get a guy that could be running back one over the next 2, 3, 5 years. Um, More generally, I guess, I read the ADP stuff. I'm sure everyone reads the ADP stuff. I think, sometimes you just got to go by vibes, man. I end up finding, you know, players I watched in college, especially like, you feel like you have a little bit more familiarity, a little bit more edge. The ADP, they didn't watch how fast, some guys looked in Buckeye Red or whatever. So, I mostly go with the ADP, but there are definitely some vibes picks where I just you got to go get the guy you like, right?
Yep, absolutely. And then you have to look at, different sites, ADPs, can vary drastically, especially with guys like quarterbacks and things like that, where there's just different viewpoints, and it just depends on, when the runs come, when people start picking up certain draft positions.
And it's all, yeah, you hit it right. It's all no one knows, right? Like you can have a lot of different ADPs, and within 2 weeks someone who is ADP over 100 will be like in line for running back six or whatever. Like no one knows. You got to just take some risks somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna give out your email address after the show today, to for all those Raiders fans to give you messages about your Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers erasure.
To fair, Brock Bowers was a bad one. Jacoby Myers, you can have.
Yeah, I mean, Bowers is, as much as he's getting those receptions with the Raiders, I mean, I to your point, I'm more teasing is, they've certainly brought Genty in to be the guy in Las Vegas. So
That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed.
all right, speaking of that guy, we're going to move on to our second sponsored question, a draft pick of the day. We're looking at our sponsor, Canada Goose. Free the people from cold. Pick of the round, Canada Goose. We gotta we gotta shout out to our Canadian brethren up north. Chuba Hubbard selected in the sixth round. We all know Hubbard from Edmonton. Played his college ball in the United States at Oklahoma State. Canada Goose, pick of the round. Chuba Hubbard goes to Isaac Lee in round six. People had question marks about him. He had a great season last year, but they didn't know if the Panthers were going to commit to him. Well, this year, Jonathan Brooks on the PUP list for 2025. He will not play. Um, but and then Hubbard, he gets his 4-year contract, $33 million. He is going to be the Panthers running back, it seems. What are your thoughts on that pick from Isaac?
First off, great connection. I did not know where you were going with Canada Goose at all, but I see now Chuba Hubbard is indeed a Canadian. So uh, good deep cut. No, I love this pick for Isaac. Yeah, I mean, to your point, Jonathan Brooks, ADP dandy last year. Everyone expected him as a strong situation breakout candidate. Obviously, he tears the ACL for the second time. There's not a lot of other running backs on the roster. I think they drafted Trevor Etienne, maybe, am I remembering right? So maybe there's some sort of deep day three, day four guys, but I think it's pretty clear Chuba Hubbard's going to be the premier back. I think the Panthers defense is also sneaky terrible, right? I think, they spent
Yeah.
some draft capital there, but I think they were number one points allowed last year. And so, they've obviously invested in the offense. They've Bryce Young, they went out and got him a receiver. I think this team could be trying to score a lot this year,
Yep.
playing from behind, Chuba
Agreed.
Hubbard, three down back, knows pass protection, could be getting a lot of those sort of check down screen routes. And so I think, the sort of the targets and the plays are going to be there as kind of the number one back on the roster, and I think it's an offense that could sneaky score a lot of points.
Yeah.
So no, I really like the pick. I think at least for the next year, 2, 3 years, like Isaac's probably going to get some great value out of this pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that take. Moyer and I discussed that AFC South. Um, we're thinking a lot of points are going to be scored. Maybe not the prettiest games in the AFC South. Maybe not, the Sunday night games, but they're going to be maybe some noon games, and there might be some points scored there.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's an ugly division. It's a fun division. You never know what's going to happen down there. Um, you roll a dice, and one of those teams is going to be scoring 50 points every game. Exactly.
All right. So we've got one more segment today. This is our reaction segment. Um, so I'm gonna be sending you showing everyone a video of one of your top guys. Um, and I want a genuine reaction here. So let's see here if I can pull this up.
Oh yeah. Okay. I got it.
You're in a heated competition
Response to Travis
on the
Hunter. I don't
best
think I've
two-way
seen
player
this.
on the planet. Ashton Genty, the best running back in the world. Seen Travis make a couple comments online. I don't know if you've seen it. It was recent. He's like, man, listen, he got 95 carries right now. He got that much. If I had 95 catches, I mean, how many yards would I have?
I mean, and kudos to Travis. Like, he balling for real. Like, he doing some stuff we ain't never seen nobody do. Personally, I don't take no offense to it. Like, he just speaking his opinion. Everybody got an opinion. For me, is what I've been doing has been done in 36, 37 years.
Long time.
So that's something special. If I keep that up and, break a record that's been around for 36 years, then I feel like you can't really compete with that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
If the Heisman Trophy was to be awarded today, who you think winning it? You or Travis Hunter?
me for sure. I gotta say me.
Travis balling, bro.
He is balling, but I just feel like what I'm doing is it's just too special. I watch Travis, I watch his games, like incredible player. Like I've never seen people do what he's doing. But I know myself, I know my talent. I feel like I'm the best player in college football.
You in the
All right. Were you able to hear that, Ken?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, so I think I got it. It was Ashton Genty talking about the Heisman and Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, Travis Hunter was kind of, going off on social media talking about, if he had the same number of carries as Ashton Genty or the same number of touches, he'd be doing things special. And Genty, I love that attitude coming out and just saying, he likes what Hunter's doing, but he feels like he's the top dog.
I totally agree. I love that confidence from my boy. He knows it. He knows. Travis Hunter, obviously incredible two-way player. Like did some things we haven't seen before at Colorado. But Travis Hunter couldn't, saying 95 catches, like he wouldn't have the stamina to get the carries that Genty had. And so I love that confidence from Genty. And obviously he's a tough guy. He realizes how unusual, how hard, what he was doing was. I won't say the Heisman was a robbery, but like, look, I think it's pretty obvious when you look at the AVP this year who the best player in college football was. So team Genty in that debate.
Yeah, yeah, and you can tell he gave his flowers to Hunter in that interview. He seems like uh, a young man with a great head on his shoulders, and I think I think those Raiders fans are gonna be super happy with what they get in him as kind of their premier player coming in from this year's draft.
From your lips to God's ears, man. Let's see a big couple seasons here.
All right. So those are all the segments for today. We're looking at we're a little bit over halfway through round 7 going here today. No live picks during our wrap up show today. But Any thoughts, any final thoughts on your draft? How are you feeling about the draft? How are you feeling about, the league as a whole right now?
Um, First off, thanks a bunch for organizing here, and these videos have been great. You're doing a great job. We'll see how it goes when it comes to, the commissioning, the disputes, and the fights. I'm sure this league is going to have a lot of litigation, but right now you're doing a great job. No, I'm excited for the rest of the draft. I think we're gonna get probably a run on quarterbacks here pretty soon. I thought Will was gonna start it, but I think it's all like we're in that scene in The Office when everyone's standing around with the guns, and I think we're gonna see a quarterback, and then we're gonna see five quarterbacks.
Okay.
But it's an exciting draft. Good to have something to do in May, getting me pumped up for the season. So no, man, super excited.
Yeah. Six quarterbacks selected so far. And I could see not just starting quarterbacks. I could see people getting interested in some backups too here. I mean, you can't in Dynasty, can never have too many quarterbacks on your roster. Um, Fantastic analysis, Ken. Kenny Deals, he's been doing big things in the draft. I'm sure you're gonna be doing big things for this whole season. Best of luck going forward in the draft, and we'll see how this league turns out in the 2025 season.
Likewise, man. Good luck to you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good rest of your Memorial Day. Say hi to the co-commish for me.
Yeah, Kokamish is off this Memorial Day. She sends her regards. She says peace and love, and you guys got to come over to Milwaukee soon and say hi.
We will do that. We'll figure it out.
All right. Well, that's it for round 6 wrap up today. We'll see when round 7 finishes up, and we might just have another special guest coming in to talk about round 7. So have a great Memorial Day. Stay safe out there, and as always, don't forget to kiss the commish. See ya.